Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Dreamforce. It's 8 in the morning. Really appreciate your enthusiasm for coming to this session. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll try to do our best to make this worthwhile of your time. I'm Dilip Burki. I'm in the platform products team. I'm sure I've spoken to many of you, and you might have attended my sessions in the past. I have the pleasure of doing this session with Paul Hardaker. Paul and I go long time back. As we built second-generation packages, but it took us a bit of time. He has been very helpful in terms of sharing his comments, his feedback. As many of you know, Financial Force has a really complex set of packages, so validating a lot of our design concepts was very helpful at all stages. This is the forward-looking statement. I will be talking to you about the roadmap at the end of this, and please keep this in mind as you go through the session. In terms of the agenda, the thing that I want to talk about to begin with is set the stage for why did we build second-generation packages, what are some of its key feature set. But most of this session, I want it to be about Paul and his company's journey in terms of how they went about building second-generation packages. As many of you know, we have spoken very many times about managed second-generation packages going live one fine day. This is the first time that we are talking about it in past tense, because in October, when Winter 20 went live, managed second-generation packages went GA. That means you can now build and deploy net new packages. In fact, Paul will talk in a session, their packages are already in the process of security review, and Dave has the honor of being the first partner. Their package passed security review the first time. He was surprised, we were surprised, so there's a lot of momentum that's building up with respect to this. He will talk about some of the best practices that they have come up with based on their experience with first-generation packages and how they're looking at second-generation packages. I will talk a little bit about the roadmap and open up the floor for Q&A. When the session is over, we will be outside the breakout room. We would love to continue the interaction, so if your questions don't get answered, I'll be there outside the breakout room. With this, in terms of, I think it always helps to set the stage. I know that I may be preaching to the choir, but it still helps for new partners to talk about why did we build second-generation packages, because a lot of things that we are doing there, if you don't know how first-generation packages, what are some of the challenges, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. So the first challenge that many of you have told us is the constraint that we have had historically, that everything has to be deployed to the packaging org. And even if you have a version control system, it is a very org-based development model when you look at packaging. And it's the antithesis of how modern ALM is done, where if your developers are more comfortable using the CLI, the version control system, the IDE, and they don't want to worry about orgs. And however much we have tried, even with Salesforce DX, with first-generation packaging, there's a lot of org-based work that you have to do. The second thing is with sharing code. Like, as you all know, the moment you have your second managed package, if you want the two packages to share code between each other, you have to use Global Apex. There is no workaround. And once you have anything in Global Apex, deprecating, refactoring is next only to impossible. This makes developing base and extension packages very difficult. Again, I don't have to tell a lot. Anytime you're working on extension package, you'll have to create a managed release version of the base package, install it in the extension packaging org. Again, a very artificial way of doing development. The version structure is very rigid in the sense that every time you build a version of the package, then it inherits everything that was there in the previous version. So the version structure is very linear in first-generation packaging. Most of this has resulted in many of you building giant monolithic packages. It's not that you followed a bad development practice, it's just that you found developing multiple packages so difficult that you ended up building really large packages. It is not uncommon for us to have some of our large partners, packages take an hour to build, an hour to install. Clearly not a streamlined form of doing CI. The last two things are issues that many of you know, the whole concept where certain types of metadata can be removed, but other types of metadata is not removed, and we are not innovating or making progress there at the pace that we started this initiative with. And all the manageability rules that we have is defined by us. You have no flexibility in terms of defining them. So in the rest of the session, we'll be talking about how we have fixed all these things, but at a very high level, if we were to look at it, we wanted to keep the goodness of first-generation packages, right? The ability to license, list, monetize, use feature management. But what we really wanted to offer is a modern ALM experience, a source-driven modern ALM experience. And we realized that building it from ground up is way better than trying to incrementally improve first-generation packages. So in terms of core feature set, I'm talking about things that differentiates this. It's the source-driven development. Whether you have one managed second-generation package or 100 managed second-generation package, you just need 2 orgs. There are no packaging orgs, no patch orgs. You need your partner business org, which is going to be the owner of all your packages. You need a single namespace org to acquire one namespace, and that's it. That's done. You'll not even log into the namespace org once you link it to the partner business org. So you can do truly a source-driven, CLI-driven development with managed second-generation packages. The second thing is, with first-generation packages, everything is UI-driven, and we have built API, and we have built CLI for a subset of operations, which means if you want to do an end-to-end automation, it's very difficult. With managed second-generation packages, it's the other way around. We have built all the APIs, we have built the CLI, we in fact don't have the UI. You're more than welcome to go build the UI. We may build UI in future, but we are very clear that there isn't anything that you cannot do via API and CLI. So you can do truly 100% CI. The other thing is dependency. Dependency between packages, we want it to be very declarative. So you can create an SFDX project.json and expressly express the dependency. And a lot of aspects of semantic versioning we have inherited in terms of how you declare dependency, and we'll continue to innovate there. The other thing which is very important is when we talk about Apex and managed packages, there are 2 scopings, right? You can have public Apex that is scoped to what's in your managed package, or you can have global Apex that is shared across packages. With managed second-generation packages, we are introducing a third scoping mechanism, what we call namespace accessible. So you can take any public Apex class or method and annotate it as to be namespace accessible, then all packages sharing the same namespace that is owned by you will be able to access that Apex. So with this, you will make stuff global only when you intend it to be truly global. So we feel building modular, interdependent packages becomes much easier with second-generation packages. This is something that is difficult to say in a Dreamforce session explain, but this, we believe, is foundationally a whole new way of managing versions with second-generation packages. So with second-generation packages, when you create a package version, you can specify the parent package version or the ancestor package version from which you want to inherit the manageability rules. Now, this enables you to do some really powerful things. You can build a package version, test it out, get early feedback from your customers, and if you realize that what you have added doesn't make sense, you can completely abandon that version. And that's something that cannot be done with first-generation packages. And the way you work with Ancestry in Scratch orgs enables your development team to find issues much more proactively. And I don't want to talk much about that because Paul has a demo to showcase that. But when we did all this innovation, we realized that we cannot just, there is a reason why this took some time for us to take it to GA, because building this innovation was not sufficient to get you to move over to second-generation package. We had to offer feature parity. So with the GA release, we have complete parity with license management app. And the same thing goes with subscriber support console. So you can support your customers using the same set of capabilities. Feature management app works 100% with this. We have support for install and uninstall scripts that you love. We have provided the capability for doing patch versions without using patch org, so you can do a very source-driven patch version management without leveraging patch arcs, but all those rules and constraints still apply. You can submit a second-generation package for security review. You can list it on AppExchange, and all that stuff still works. We continue to enforce and recommend that there be high levels of test coverage, so the 75% code coverage still applies for second-generation packages. With this, I'll hand this over to Paul, and he will talk about his journey. Paul?
Okay. Wired up. Okay, thanks, Dilip. Yeah, so I'm going to talk you through how we at Financial Force built our first 2GP second-generation package. I guess probably some of you in the audience have heard of Financial Force. I know lots of people use the open source libraries we make available, and some of you may develop extensions against our packages as well. But in case you don't know Financial Force, we're a Salesforce partner. We provide PSA and customer-centric ERP apps on the platform. We have around 1,300 customers in about 34 countries, currently at around 700 employees, headquartered here in San Francisco. So when Dilip and I were kind of putting this presentation together, I just thought back to when I was first introduced to packaging on the platform, and I thought I'd just share that story with you. I joined Financial Force about 6 years ago, I think, and I came on board to kind of help them adopt sort of more standard enterprise ways of kind of building software. And I'd been working with one of the development teams through a release cycle, and it struck me as odd that we weren't creating builds of this software as we were going through sprints. I'd come from a kind of enterprise Java, .NET background where you'd build things regularly. So we got to the end of the release cycle, and the lead developer sort of took me to one side. Oh, I'll teach you how to do this thing called packaging. And this picture kind of accurately represents the way packaging was explained to me. Not that the person teaching me was a small green Jedi, but the picture on the right, they kind of said, imagine you're in a large room, and that's called a packaging org. That room's full of shelves. It's got lots of different components on the shelves. And to create this thing called a package, you've got to take the right stuff off the right shelves, put it in a package, and then you'll get your build. So I said, great, that sounds good. I like learning new things. Give that a go. Clicked the upload button, and I thought, well, where's the actual build artifact? And they said, oh, no, that's just a URL. So anyway, that's first generation packaging, I guess. We did make some attempts at automating that. We were able to kind of build packages with fake namespaces, but we never really had the confidence to kind of point that infrastructure we built at our real packaging orgs. And as Dilip said, there are a number of challenges, certainly for Financial Force, and I'm sure shared by you guys with 1GP. It's quite fragile. It's time consuming for us. Some of our packages, I think, are some of the largest on the platform. So to create one of them can easily take 2 hours. We've not now, maybe not as much now, but in the past we've certainly had situations where people have deployed things to the packaging org that they didn't intend to do so. As I said earlier, it's hard to automate. Some of our packaging orgs are very old as well. I think one of them dates back to 2009, and there's stuff in there now that we can't really remove, but we don't package. The kind of mismatch between the packaging org and what we've got in source control kind of has got worse over time. So number of challenges really with 1GP. But moving kind of forward to today, where are we now with 2GP? I think the key here really is the Salesforce DX CLI. So that opens up the possibility to truly automate packaging for the first time, whether that's via kind of scripts or packaging pipelines. And when working with Dilip's team, it was fortunate that in our sort of last release, our 4 release, we had a small net new package that we could use to create our first 2GP. So we worked with our development team, and we kind of tried out a few different things, really. But for that team, in the end, we went for a kind of a single-click Jenkins job. We use Jenkins for our CI/CD. So that team, literally to build a new package version, can just go into Jenkins, click a button, and out pops a new 2GP version at the end of that build. We also kind of played around a bit with just to see what we could do, really, like build package versions when we push to Git, or build package versions if you merge your pull request to your main branch. And in the end, we settled on a kind of packaging pipelines, we've called them. So we use Blue Ocean with kind of declarative Jenkins pipelines to create this particular 2GP package. And that's quite good because you can hold your build definition, pipeline definition in source control along with your SFDX project file and your actual package metadata. And that's quite a nice way to kind of standardize this across different teams. That's the kind of the build side of things. I think from a local developer sort of experience perspective, there are a number of advantages with 2GPs. Delete mentioned package ancestry. I think one of the key advantages of that is that it protects you as a developer from making changes to metadata that would be invalid if you were to try and deploy those changes to your packaging org in a 1GP world. So the feedback cycle's a lot faster because you find out about those errors directly in VS Code. 2GPs are a lot more ephemeral or kind of temporary, disposable maybe. So if you get an idea to try out a new feature, create a feature branch, you can actually build a 2GP package version for that feature branch, install that in Scratch orgs, maybe let product managers demo it. But if that idea doesn't go anywhere, you don't like it, it's fine, you just abandon that particular package version. So it's a lot easier to create and dispose these things. Moving metadata or removing metadata will be easier in 2GPs. And I think lastly, sort of modular-based development, Delete mentioned that earlier, but that will, from a local sort of developer working on your Mac, if we can start to break up some of our larger packages into smaller modules so that a developer can just clone a small Git repo and push that metadata to a Scratch org. That should be a lot quicker because they're not having to work with such a large code base. Okay, so that's a quick overview. So I'm going to show you a couple of quick demos now, if this works. So let me just move that out of the way. And let me pull up our build system. So as I said, we use Jenkins Blue Ocean these days to run most of our CI/CD. And we've got a pipeline defined here for this particular demo. If I run the SFDX command just to list the versions of this particular package, list -b, so if I run that, you'll see that we've already built a number of different versions of this package. Mostly as Dilip and I have been practicing this presentation, to be honest. And if I run that with the released argument to the CLI, you can see down here we've actually promoted a couple of these versions to managed release. So that's another concept in 2GP. You can quickly keep building iterations of your package, and then when you've got a version that you're actually happy with, you've regression tested it, etc., you can promote that to an actual released state. And that's important when it comes to package ancestry, which I'll show you in a minute. So what I'm going to do, this is the DX project in VS Code for this particular package. And I'm just going to quickly add create a new Apex class. my demo class, if I could type. So that's just adding a new class that's deployed to my, excuse me, my Scratch org. So if I hop over to my terminal now, if I just do a quick git status, you should see there's the new class. So I'm going to commit that to my Git repo. Demo class. And at this point, I just want to get the pipelines, because this is going to happen, well, hopefully this is going to happen fairly quickly. I'll get these windows side by side so you can see what's happening. So this is the pipeline for the package. So to actually build a new package version, at this point, if this was 1GP, I'd have to start deploying to a packaging org and all the usual stuff, log in and manually package things. But with this, if I just do git push and refresh that page, we should. So that's triggered the execution of this Jenkins pipeline. And that's doing a couple of things in parallel at the minute. It's gone off and it's creating a new Scratch org so that we can deploy and test this new package version. And down here we can see we've called the DX CLI to go and create a new version of this package. And that will then be installed in that Scratch org. So that's kind of, in essence there, we're building a new package version just by doing git push, which I think is quite, I think Dilip's team deserve a round of applause for that, really, because I'll give you a round of applause. But I think to go from manual packaging to be able to do that on git push is pretty cool. So while that's running, I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. So over in the DX project file, this section here is the key thing for 2GP. So we've specified a version name for this. Well, we specified a name for the package and a version name. We're using the .next syntax to define what the actual next version number will be. So the DX platform will just keep incrementing that value for us. And then down here, we've specified the ancestor version of this package. So basically, as I'm building new versions, new .300 versions, I'm depending on 200.01. So if that's already, so that's actually already created in less than a minute, I think, actually. Yeah, just over a minute, created a brand new package version. If we look at the pipeline file itself, we can do things in there. Let me just hide that. So here we're doing a few things in parallel, but create the package version, notify Slack if you want to do that kind of thing. That's quite nice. Let the team know there's a new package version available. Another thing you can do with 2GP is line up your package version number with a git tag, which is quite useful if if this got released to customers and they're hitting issues and you want to know that you're actually working on the code base that resulted in the package the customers got. Just checking out a git tag's quite a nice thing to be able to do. So there's a number of nice things you can do, and that pipeline's now. That might not run quickly enough, it depends. But that new package version is being installed in that Scratch org. So I'll just hop back to the slides. Is that working? So from a kind of best practices perspective, I think the key thing to remember with 2GP is the kind of single namespace concept. So I know for the team that at Financial Force, it took a while for folks to get their heads around the fact that there is no namespace for this new package. So we registered a new single global namespace, FFDC, I think. And within that single namespace, we can create as many different 2GP packages as we like, and there are no additional namespaces and no packaging orgs. So as Dilip said, there's just two orgs being used. The production org where the dev hub is located and the actual namespace org. I would say kind of, I've said automate everything, but automate as much as makes sense for you, and use kind of the full power of the tools you've got available. Git tag things. One good tip is if you're automating the CLI, JQ is a library you can use to parse JSON output. That's quite useful when you want to parse the output of one command to pass information to the next part of a script. Actually, I forgot one of my demos. Sorry, I'm just going to hop back. From a developer experience perspective, so if I go back to VS Code, so here in that released version of the package we created, we'd included some global Apex. Now, if I change that to public and just save, so that's just deploying that change to my Scratch org. Now, normally I'd only find out that was a problem if I was actually deploying to the 1GP packaging org. But once the DX CLI is returned, it's actually telling me, I don't know if that's visible, right here in VS Code that I've made an invalid change, so I can't remove the global identifier from managed release Apex. So that's the kind of one of the benefits of using the ancestor version. And looking ahead in terms of where Financial Force might go with 2GP, I think we've kind of settled on using these sorts of packaging pipelines in our CI/CD process, because our solution, our kind of overall solutions comprised of around about 8 core packages and then a number of extension packages. We probably do things like gated builds, so tier 1 builds where we build each individual package and test at that level, and then kind of promote them up to a tier 2 level where we could take all those new package versions, install them in a Scratch org and run some kind of cross-package boundary regression testing. We can automate Salesforce pre-release testing. That's kind of another new DX feature, so we can install new 2GP versions in pre-release Scratch orgs for regression testing. And then looking further ahead, as Dilip will talk about the roadmap in a second, once push upgrades are available for 2GP, I think that opens up some real potential. You could go as far as something like continuous deployment, for example. So every time you merge a pull request, if you go for this automated approach, you could imagine a pipeline that built the version, installed, ran some regression tests, and then called a push upgrade API that would deploy that new promoted version out to 10, 100 subscriber orgs. So that'd be quite cool to get to that point. And lastly, the namespace accessible, we've mentioned that a couple of times, I think. But again, looking forward, when we can migrate first generation to second generation packages and then start to break those up into modules and use namespace accessible, that's something we're definitely looking forward to. And I think that's me done, so I'll pass back to Dilip.
Hey, thanks a lot, Paul, and thanks for trailblazing when it comes to managed second generation packages. Before I get going, quick show of hands if you are in the process of building your first managed second generation package. Okay, that's very encouraging. The one thing that I want to highlight here is, and I think Paul demonstrated it, is second generation packages is an opportunity for you to look at how you do package development in a whole new level. So we strongly recommend that you don't look at equivalents for how to do it in the 1GP world and translate it to 2GP world, but instead use this as a mechanism for you to change the way and improve the way you do the whole thing. So in terms of product roadmap, one of the things that we have heard very loudly from the community is that when you create a package version, in many, many scenarios, what happens is, and I think Paul showcased that in his demo, before you even get to package version creation stage, most of your processes are such that you deploy the metadata to a Scratch org, you run the test, you find out that everything is fine. And then when you do the package version creation, we do a lot of those things. So what ends up happening is the overall end-to-end CI takes almost twice the time that you would have taken, because we are doing all of our validations. We are installing the dependent packages. We are running the tests, and you're doing the same thing. So with Spring 20, we will make the whole validation process optional. So you can pass a parameter called skip validation when you create a package version, and that's going to completely bypass the whole validation. It'll get a package version created much more quickly. And the whole hope there is the end-to-end CI gets much quicker. And you may be wondering, then what happens to the product quality? Like what happens if I go and give this to my customer? We'll have a check-in place where we won't let you promote such a package version to a release candidate. So this way you can have a process whereby you can create a new package version at every check-in, but create a package version, like a full build with full validation, maybe once a day or once a week. And we feel that can make your team a lot more agile in terms of how you do these builds. When it comes to Summer 20, which is a release where we really want to focus on two things. One is the ability to do push upgrades. The plan is to start with API and then start looking at CLI and other things. But the next thing is the ability to migrate existing first-generation packages to second-generation packages. This, we feel, is one of the most technically hard problem for us to solve. So it may take us a couple of releases. So the plan right now is between Summer 20 and Winter 21, we will get push upgrades and migration, again, safe harbor, to a state where you can start using them. And once we do that, we want to start working on making it possible for you to start removing any type of metadata. And here we want to innovate. We don't want to do it the way we did it for first-generation packages, where a subset of metadata is removable. We want to do it in a way such that any type of metadata should be removable. And I don't have this on my roadmap because now we are getting into Spring 21, which is way out there. We are very excited about what we are internally calling package bundles. So with package bundles, you can create a package which is basically a collection of your pre-existing packages. And these package bundles can be listed on AppExchange. You can push upgrade a bundle, and you can just install a bundle. And with this, it becomes much easier for you to develop any number of packages to define your app. But from your customer standpoint, from an admin experience, the experience is much faster because they're just installing a single thing. And before I open up the floor, there are a few things that we hear on, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to respond to them. In terms of where we can learn, we rewrote the whole chapter on managed second-generation packages. It's part of the Salesforce DX Developer Guide. We highly recommend you go back and read it. There's a community, there's a managed packages partner community that we created, and we already have a lot of you actively participating. If you're not there, we recommend that you join that because you can ask us questions. The product and engineering team is there, and we can continue to collaborate there. This is something that Paul already highlighted. You have no reason to use more than a single namespace. In terms of where you should build the package, we strongly recommend that you use the partner business org, because when you use the partner business org, you have higher entitlements. It already comes with free user licenses for your developers, the Salesforce DX licenses, and with enhanced entitlements, it's much easier for your team to make the partner business org the owner of the package. In terms of training your customers and admins, they should see no change. All the innovation that we are doing requires you to adapt it and for you to take the advantage of it. From a customer standpoint, if an admin is installing a package, whether they're installing the first-generation package or second-generation package, the experience is identical. So you wouldn't have to have the burden of navigating or training your customers. In the same way, even when you do the migration from first-generation to second-generation package, you will take a set of steps. But from your customers and admin standpoint, it will be completely transparent. One last thing, you may be wondering, we've spoken about unlocked packages. How does unlocked packages relate to managed second-generation packages? The way we look at it is, if you're building a package for consumption by a single company, whether it is your company or a specific customer, because you're doing a professional services engagement, unlocked packages is the way to go. But if you're building something that you want to distribute to multiple customers, the best technology is managed second-generation packages. We don't see any use cases for you to continue to use unmanaged packages. So things will become much easier where we will say managed packages are for Salesforce partners, and unlocked packages are for professional engagements and for customers. With this, I think we have 5 minutes. I'll open up the floor for Q&A. If you can come to the mic and ask, it will be helpful. Thanks.
Hi, Paul. I have a couple of questions. Did you face any challenges in migrating customers who are already in first generation package to the second generation package because they are already on production?
Yeah, so not yet, because you can't actually migrate first to second generation packages just yet. I think that's in spring.
That's in
spring,
summer, winter
next year. So the package we created is a brand new second generation package. So the customers will receive a second generation package.
So, so there is no seamless way of migrating customers from first generation package to second generation package as of now?
Yes, that's true. And that's why I said it's on the roadmap for summer and winter 21.
Okay. So, so in the interim, how are you managing this transition for the customers? Are you, the new releases which you build, which is going to be on the second generation package, how are you installing it in the customer org?
It's as Dilip said, from a customer, subscriber, or an admin perspective, there is no difference for second generation packages. You install them, or, well, you can manually upgrade them, you can't push upgrade them in exactly the same way. So we do plan, I think, for any net new packages that we build from now on, unless there's a good reason not to, we'll use second generation packaging.
Okay, so when you say manually upgrade, that means you actually manually put the code into the
the same way you
and
paste
then generate
URLs
the first generation package.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They install the same way.
Okay.
No, it's not. Yes, you can't go from a 1GP to a 2GP.
So you can't upgrade a 1GP to 2GP, right?
Not yet, no.
Yeah. Okay. And do you still use sandboxes, and if yes, why?
Sorry, say that.
Do you still use sandbox orgs, and if yes, why?
Yeah, we still use, I mean, for our internal production org, we've got a number of sandboxes that we still use, yeah, for sure.
If you have some more questions, we'll come back to you. There are some more people.
Okay, sure.
We can continue the conversation.
Is there still IP protection for certain components in second generation?
Yes, the IP protection for components and second generation packages is exactly the same way that it's there for first generation packages.
Okay, thank you.
I'm with a small nonprofit that just built their first managed package, but I see a lot of value in this 2GP for us moving forward. So considering we're just at the beginning of this journey, is there anything we can do now to start preparing to get on 2GP? Should we just rebuild this thing that we've only distributed to a couple customers in 2GP now? What would be the smartest way forward?
So I would let you make the decision yourselves, but my suggestion is if you still don't have customers on your managed first generation packages yet,
just a couple.
Yeah, you may be better off using second generation packages because then you don't have to worry about migrating them to second generation packages.
Is there, with this plan of migration, is there a way to build out new features in 2GP now? And then is there a kind of way to transition into this thing we've been building on the side? What does the actual transition mechanism look like? Is it upgrading?
So we will have another session in future where we'll talk more about migration.
Yeah.
But the migration will be a complete package. You can't build one feature in second generation, a few features in first generation. It will be a seamless migration, but you still have to migrate the customers.
So can I start building the place I'll be migrating to?
I think, as Dilip said, if you've not actually deployed that first generation package to many customers, I would probably just switch to 2GP now, because the advantages are significant. You can automate so much, and it's so much easier.
And we can take this offline. We can see where you are and see how we can help you.
Switch.
Hi. What are the implications for shared code between multiple second generation packages and versioning? So if you introduce breaking changes, would you have to coordinate making sure that all of the dependent packages are upgraded at the same time?
You're absolutely right. So that's the reason why we are so interested in building package bundles, because when we have package bundles, you can truly refactor code across packages and be assured that they will all be deployed as part of a single transaction. One of the things that you have to do, and there was a Stack Exchange post on that, was you may have to do a stutter step where, for example, if you're changing the signature of a method, you may want to have 2 methods in one version, make the dependent packages adopt the new method, and then deprecate the other method. So you will have to do the stutter step until we have package controls.
My question is about the CI/CD that you demonstrated. Are you using Docker or something? Is the image available, like creating the scratch org and then parallelly running the deployment and then packaging and deploying it in the scratch?
Yeah, sorry, was the question, are we using Docker?
Docker.
We do, yeah, in terms, I mean, our CI/CD infrastructure runs in AWS, so we do use Docker in certain places.
So is, I mean, one of the things I struggle with general SFDX deployment is to get the correct Docker image with all the required
things. Yeah, exactly. So we use it for that reason. I think there is an official Docker image for
Salesforce
DX now.
I don't think so.
Maybe. We'll have to double
But
check.
is your Docker image available for anybody to use?
It's not, but there's probably no reason why it couldn't be. So we could look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I have some follow-up questions, Shall I discuss?
Yeah.
So we have a package size more than 52 MB. So is there a plan to increase this limit, package upload limit?
We will, we are going to evaluate that because you have 52 MB, is it?
Yeah, we have static resources.
Okay.
So that itself is around 98 MB.
Okay. So maybe we should take this up offline and we can figure out, because we did have a story to spike that. If you have a real use case, yeah, let's sync up and figure out how we can do that.
Sure, thank you.
Are there any limitations to abandoned releases or packages? Or abandoned versions, I think that's what you call them.
The only restriction is if you take a version and you install it in a customer's org, and then you choose to abandon it, that package cannot be upgraded. So you are free to try out stuff, cut a new package version, give it to customers, but you have to make sure that the customers install them in throwaway orgs.
All right.
That's the only restriction, because you can choose to abandon versions, but when it comes to package upgrades, we always enforce the rule that they're coming from the same ancestry.
All right, so not recommended to abandon a GA that's on production orgs.
Yes, the foundational difference is today, the moment you create a released version of a managed first generation package, you're stuck. That limitation is completely removed with this ancestry. But you still have to, like for example, to Paul's example, you can easily create such a version, give it to your product management team, have them try it out. But you can't install them in official production customer apps.
All right, thank you.
I think we are done. We'll stay there and we can answer your questions. Thank you.